Okay, so now we're recording. Thank you for the patience with the delay. This is Design 301, and we're going to talk about industry standards. So it's great to draw lines, it's great to make shapes, it's great to design your product, but depending on what industry you're working in, it's all going to look a little bit different. And AutoCAD is really an all in one tool, so the settings are all there. If you work in, say, Dynascape or LandCAD, it's already pre-set up to look just like a landscaper wants, and so you don't have to worry about all this. If you work in Civil 3D or Civil Desktop, it's already set up. If you work in Chief Architect, it's already set up. But AutoCAD lets you set it up. So we're going to go over those things so that you understand them. And then next week, I'm going to give you the tools to make that setup. You're going to go through, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff I do. Look at all this stuff. Look at all this stuff. And you're going to learn how to work with it. But next week, I will give you a tool called the Design Center Import that lets you set up very, very quickly if you've done that. Okay, so you've got the architecture on one. Steven says he's got architecture on one. Yeah, when it's already set up, it's so much easier. Revit is very much that way. It's totally set up for a construction management type thing. However, AutoCAD is used by kind of everybody. So, and we in this particular class don't cater to one group. If you're an artist, you can be in here. If you're a landscaper, you should be in here. If you're electronics, you should be in here. So we sort of touch all of these. The things that you need to set up are things like units. Different industries use units in a different way, and I'll do a quick demo of that today. Layers are a way of grouping lines that need to be treated alike. So you can imagine if you're doing an architectural design, the walls and the doors and the windows would all kind of be one thing, the roof would be another, the text would be another. So those would all be on layers that look alike, feel alike, and are treated alike. And then when you want the electrical, that would be on a layer. So everything exists in the one drawing, but you can turn those layers on and off to see just what you want. Text again. Text is really interesting. Different industries use text in a different way. Same with dimensions and title blocks. So all of those things have to be addressed and set up properly. So we're just going to touch them all, and you'll see there's like a flippin' huge list of stuff. How do you load line types? How do you change colors? How do you do all these things? Fortunately, they're all short. I don't think one of you told me that you looked at most of these. There's not even an hour's worth of watching here. And so, take your time, go through them, watch them. I made them sort of quick and simple and direct as I could to give you the minimum amount needed. If you go look online, some of these things like, oh my God, they go on for 30 minutes on this and still don't give you much information. So there we go. That's your playlist that's available for all of that stuff. The other thing that we'll go over on Thursday is just a little bit of a talk about 2D views. They're still important, even though 3D modeling, really has become the tool. I mean, if you can see it in 3D, how much better than learning all that orthographic stuff. But 2D views are still excellent to eliminate all the background chatter and see exactly what you're interested in. And so there are lots of different types. There's mechanical details in assemblies, there's architectural plans, elevations, details and sections, civil site work, topo work, plans, sections. There are so many 2D views in civil work that it's incredible. And then landscape, even just in landscape, there's hardscape and planning details and irrigation plans. And I didn't even go on to some of the artistic ones and graphic designs. So the idea is that you start to see what a well done version of these looks like. And so that's what your discussion is about. Find some that just look good, and it's actually in your template too. Find something from the web and check it out. Do the lines look clean? Is there a difference between them? Are the annotations correct? Is the information on it right? And so just start looking at these things and go, yeah, that one's good, that one's good. And then I'll verify it to you on your template. So those are the topics. We're still going to focus on AutoCAD. In week 5 and 6, if you want to work in another package, you're welcome to. Although I'll still do most of my stuff. There's some other stuff if you just don't have enough to do in your life and want to look at some stuff. And these ones are focused on architectural. Remember last week we focused on mechanical extra work, and this week is architectural extra work. And you can do this thing with rectangles. This is rectangle with a rotation, and then just copy, copy, copy. It's a rectangle with hatch, a rectangle with hatch, a rectangle with hatch. You'll see that is a line type. You can actually just draw that line. I gave a demo of that. These are pieces of annotation. That might be a little bit harder to get done for you, but you'll figure it out. And you can skip this scale thing. Don't worry about that for now. A scale doesn't even really belong on here. So you can skip that. Here's another one, and lo and behold, it's almost the same thing. If you drew this one, you can see that you can quickly turn it into this one. And so that's why I put this one in here, to show how AutoCAD is so useful for just repurposing an existing drawing. This one is, if you can get all these ones in here, you are really cool. But it's neat to know these are all line types that are already in there. And see these ones that say gas or hot water supply? Those are already in there, and you can easily make yours, for those of you who are landscapers in particular, irrigation or drip or gas or, your 5-volt electrical or your 110-volt electrical. You can actually make those that have words in them. And there's a way to make those. We don't do it in this class, but if in week 5 and 6 you're interested, I can show you. It's pretty quick, and the skills are not hard. We just don't do it because there's only so much you can do. But all these ones, these all exist, and you can just recreate this. And these special characters are good. How do you make that diameter symbol, %C? How do you make a degree symbol, %D? Plus or minus. Those are typical special characters, and I think there are more in our workbook. This is one again. It's mostly rectangles with some hatch and a little bit, but now you can see you're starting to make real kind of drawings. So those are some of the extra work if you're interested in. Let me get back to this. Wherever, there we go. There's some extra work. In your collaboration, I've got two of them set up. The first, and now they work. The first one is to look this one over. And again, to tell me, what do you see on here that maybe is clear and maybe is unclear? So, what's W/R19 bat? That's a standard for a type of insulation. What is a joist? If you know what a joist is, that's really cool. And what is a rafter? And what is this OC? Is it Orange County? What does that mean? What is a 2x6? You know how big a 2x6 might be? Here we are. There's plenty of room to write this out. But no, they have to, here we go. Shitting. That doesn't sound very good. And when you gyp somebody, that's actually kind of derogatory too. So, we could do better than that. What is a stud versus a fascia board or a plate? They're actually, a stud is a thing of a certain length. So it's real interesting. There's a lot of stuff on here. What is T11? What's an AB? Abs. Your abs. 10-inch abs. AB. How come it doesn't say where this thing is? Why didn't it tell you where that little dot is? There's lots of stuff on here that I can figure out because I taught this class for a long time. But when I first came in, I really didn't know a lot of this. I had worked with architects and civils and structurals, but I didn't really pay attention to these drawings. I had to learn it all. I knew what all this was because I see them on drawings. What does that mean? What does this 3A1 mean and 2A1? And 1 inch equals 1 foot 0. So if you're not familiar with these things, there's tons on an architectural detail that you can think about. So that's, this is the same thing. Tell me what you don't know. And let me hear, like how come that has one line and this has an X through it and this has an X through it? These are all standards that architects and construction people expect you to know if you work in the trade. Now, we don't need you to know that. This is an introductory class, but we want to prompt you to be inquisitive about what you don't know, so that if you do start to work in the trade, you'll really start asking those questions. So there's that one. And then the patterns we talked about a moment ago. Here are the cool patterns. Here they are. And you can use it or just make up your own patterns. One of the cool things that Professor Chicoine does is she asks you to make sort of a little an emblem for a company that's got your initials in it or your name in it and make a pattern out of it. Maybe I'll demonstrate that on Thursday. It's really fun. How you can make your own kind of company logo out of your own name using patterns. So that's what we've got going there. Let's see. We've got the template. So here is your template. I've already got it open over here. I remembered to get rid of the third one this time, so that's cool. If you have, I made some changes today. So if you already downloaded this, you might go back and notice that I've added a link to a demo on how to do this one. It's not a very good demo. I didn't put any words in. I just did it, but I'm going to do it in class. But I thought there should be a demo to talk about units. This one, you just do this. And if you need to see it better, make it big. Okay. I just want to see those in a layer dialog box. This one, there's a template that you can use. Again, that shows how to do this. Same with this one. I've given you this line with some of these. So you this I mean, it says half an hour. Oh my gosh, if it takes you more than 5 or 10 minutes, you didn't get the gist of what this was. These ones do take a little bit longer. You have to make the drawing. You don't have to put the annotations on, but there's some goofy stuff on it, and I'll show you where that is. That is one of the pages in the workbook. But I've given you, I'll put the links to the plates are already in there. So these ones take a little bit longer, and you would never make a drawing like this. It just shows that you can do it. And this is an example of an assembly drawing made up from details. And then you get to make a title block. And this is where you get to just go find some stuff. So there's some work here. It's not tremendous. It's not huge. Most of the stuff you need should be in here. Here's a template for a drawing, a template for a drawing. Here's, what is this one? Oh, here I put them all on one page for you, in case you wanted to see them on one page. Here they are, just on a PDF. And here are the templates to be able to draw. And it's just make the drawing. You don't have to dimension it, but you can see there's kind of a wacko one. Lines, text, and border. So these lines are going to be yellow. The text, I guess this, don't worry about the text, but the border will be red. I said don't put the annotations on. This one's all goofy looking too. There's the outline is green. The diamond is cyan. The title is magenta, but there's no title on it. Center lines are yellow. Border white. Continuous. And then, come on. There we go. You can draw these. Now that should have a diameter symbol because it's a diameter. And that should, this is really funky the way they did this. That should be a diameter there. But you'll figure it out how to draw these. Those, if you were to put them together, would make a Lincoln log house. And if you want to try it in 3D, it's really fun too. And then these are the directions on how to make your title block. And I think I have the title block drawing. Text template. I may not have given you the title block template. Looks like I still have to give you that title block template. So I'll remember to do that. So there we go. And then it'll go here. So that's what's coming up. And today, what I want to do is just talk a little bit about units. And you can see here some demos that I've done. But I'm just going to get into here. And I'm just going to look at something. If I set my units now, and you just type units and they come up, or you go down to these drawing utilities and go to units. Those are the two ways to get to it. You'll see that there's lots of different ways. Architects use feet and inches. Now, if you set your units as feet and inches, you can use the feet and inches, the apostrophe and the quotation mark, and it'll actually do it, which is really cool. Okay. Mechanical engineers mostly use decimal, whether they're doing inches or millimeters or whatever. Most mechanical engineers work in decimal, and this is supposed to be civil engineering, feet and decimal inches. They don't do that. Civil engineers use decimal feet. So I don't know what they're thinking of on this, but if you do a civil engineering one, you have to do decimal feet. So that's important. And then fractional, there's some weld shops often use fractional. I did work in a weld shop for years, and if we got something within a 32nd of an inch, we were happy because our gaps were usually 32nd to 16th of an inch. Even though we made big tanks that were like, we made tanks that were as big as a house for the mining industry. So fractional can be used, and scientific notation, I just don't know anybody who uses it. But it's there for you. And you can say what all these units are. Now, what these units mean is when I type in the number 1, I mean something. I'm going to go 1 long. And you'll notice that when I look at the properties, it just means 1. And I don't know what that 1 means. So if I send this to a 3D printer that's set for millimeters, the 3D printer will read 1 millimeter. And if I set it for my 3D printer for feet, it'll read that as 1 foot. AutoCAD stores the number 1. So they give you a way so that people know what I'm thinking when I do my design. And that's called units. And I can always look in here and read, what I meant was 1 inch. When I typed in 1 in my brain as the designer, I meant 1 inch. Now, some machine tools will read this field, but some machine tools do not read this field. And I have personal experience with that in both Europe and China, where I got tiny parts because their machines automatically read it as millimeters and my drawing was in inches. And I got tiny parts because it did not read this. So always make sure that people know what you're talking about, and you'll see that on your stuff. So that's what units are for. When I type the number 1 or the number 10 or 15.3, what do I mean? Now, if I want to be an architect, I'm going to tell AutoCAD that I want to be an architect and how close I'm concerned with things. Most architects are like on a 32nd of an inch. They don't get many measurements closer than that. But they do usually do decimal degrees that are, 1 or 2 decimals. Okay, so now if I want to make a line that's 1 foot 4 inches long, I can type 1 foot dash 4 inches, and it'll do that. And when I look at the properties, it'll tell me 1 foot 4 inches. If I try to do that, when my units are set as decimal, I'm going to try to type it 1 foot dash 4 inches. One foot dash 4 inches. And it keeps telling me keyword, keyword, keyword required. Keyword is like telling you you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Keyword, keyword. It's asking you for, it doesn't understand 1 foot 4 inches because it doesn't think I'm an architect. So if I go back and say I'm an architect, remember, now when I type in 1 foot dash 4 inches, it'll do it. So your units are important. Okay. Always make sure that you know what you are. Now, if I wanted to be a civil engineer, I would want that to be in decimal feet. So here's where scale comes in. Yes, so this is actually the setting. So Stephen asks, is that the setting globally or for the drawing? That does go with the drawing. Okay, so your default template is a drawing called a DWT, and you can set your DWT that you're open that way also. But when we start a new drawing out of the box, the ACAD.DWT is set for decimal inches, 4 places. And so when you start a new one, it always comes back to that. I'll show you how to do that in another spot, and maybe on Thursday on how to work with your DWT file, your drawing template, so that you can set that. But for now, just know that you can go back in and do it. Okay, but if I want this to be in decimal feet, remember, all AutoCAD knows is 16. So even if I set myself to feet, AutoCAD will think that that's 16 feet. And that was 16 inches long. So I would have to scale this. Scale this. Starting over here. What's 1/12? 0.0833333333. And now you can see that that's 1.33 feet. 16 inches. So that can get a little bit tough. My suggestion is know what you're doing ahead of time and start off the way you want to start. If you're a landscaper, mostly you're going to work in as an architectural unit. If you're a civil engineer, you'll be in this decimal feet. If you're an architect, architectural. Decimal inches, inches, always, and then you can always fix it up unless you become a civil engineer who works in feet. And if you're in construction management, that can be a big deal, because if you're trying to meld a civil engineer's drawing with your architect's drawing, you have to look at their units and fix one of them to be equal to the other if they are not already the same. So that's what we've got to talk about with units. Now, layers are really interesting. Layers, and so if you're used to working with Photoshop or Illustrator or any of those programs that use layers, you kind of got the idea. Things that act alike, yes, in interior design, Anna asks, interior design uses inches. Yes, interior design almost always will use inches. And so you're safe. Although the question is, Some interior design projects use decimal inches and some use architectural, depending on if your interior design is like cabinet work that's going to go to a machine tool or if you're doing it for the client. But that's easy to change because your units, inches, the things that you're counting are right. So that's an easier change. So layers are just a way of keeping things all the same. So let me go and look. I'm going to look for, well, I don't know if I have that drawing handy, but my central utility plant drawing had like, I think it had 750 layers on it. And I had to turn off all but 5 to get this done. But I'm just going to do a real quick one here. So I'm just going to do kind of an architectural drawing and get started on some stuff. And so here we go. If you look at my drawing, there's only one thing on it, a 0 layer. All I can do is draw black. And so if I'm going to draw a wall, and I'm going to make myself into an architect, you say, I'm an architect now. There we go. And I'm going to draw a wall, and I'm going to draw up 6 feet. And then I'm going to draw over 6 feet. And then I'll go up maybe 18 feet, over 36 feet, down 12 feet, over 8 feet, and let me get my why those aren't snapping. Well, I know why they aren't snapping. So now I've got the outline of a building and I've made everything to the external. Watch what I can do. If I had made that a polyline, I could have done it all at once, but I'm going to make it into a polyline now. So now I have one thing and I can offset that. And if these are 2x4 walls, how thick do I offset them? Let me do that again. Offset 3.5. I don't know why that's not offsetting. There it goes. There we go. So there's my cool little offset that I can do. I don't know why that didn't offset the other way. That's kind of interesting. But now I've got a building. Okay, now I would like that thing to be considered a wall. So I need a layer called wall. So let me make one called wall. New layer. Wall. And walls are usually pretty thick. They're continuous. And so that's cool. And I can place those on the wall layer. Those are now walls. And my line weight settings are a little heavy. There we go. Now, maybe inside this, I've got some furniture. So let me make a layer for furniture. And I'm going to draw my furniture in red just to be cool. And I'll make that my current layer. And so now I'm not going to do a very cool job here, but I'm going to make, there's a piece of furniture, and maybe I've got kitchen cabinet over here. Come on, I know I can get it. And I've got another thing over here. Maybe I've got a bed over here. So now I've got furniture, I've got walls, and maybe there's going to be some lighting. So let me put my lighting in here. I'll make that blue just to make it easy to keep them apart. And so I've got troffer lighting. Now I've got, and of course this is a really dumb design. There's my lighting. And I've got some plumbing. So I'm going to put some plumbing in here. And I'll make that green. That's not going to show it very well. I'll make it that color of green. And so over here, I've got a toilet. And I've got a sink. And those of you who are interior designers, you're going, God, that's horrible work you're doing there. But that's okay. I just want to show you an example. So now I'm going to send a drawing to the framer, and let me put some A dash dims will be red. Now I want to put some dimensions on here. I'm going to come over to here. No, I'll put them on here. And no, I'll put them over here. So I'll put some dimensions on here. And they don't look very good right now. We're going to talk about fixing all these standards another time. So now if I want to send my wall drawing, and my framers need this information, they don't need to see all this other stuff. So I want to send my wall drawing plane to my wall people. So if I look inside there, and in this viewport, I freeze the furniture, the lighting, and the plumbing. Now all of a sudden, I've got a drawing that I can send to my framers. Yeah, and so, yeah, I'm, for whether I have finished size exterior, finished size interior, blah, blah, blah. So, I'm not too concerned with the number on these things, but you can see my model has everything in it. It has my walls, I'd have my doors and my windows, I'd have my interior partition walls. I could show my roof for my roofers, my foundation for my foundation people. I've got my electrical, I've got my plumbing, I've got my interior design, and each one can have their own drawing or sets of drawings, and I can show just the parts I want by using layers. I can group things together like I want. And so that's the whole purpose of layers. Now, what you just need to know is that you can do exactly what I showed right here. Make a new layer, call it whatever it's supposed to be called, give it a color, a line type, and a line weight. Now, the only one that's kind of tricky there is the line type. I made these all continuous. But if I need a different line type, I have to either go through load line type, I know it, what is it? Line type, load, well, now I got to remember where that, see, I just did this and now I can't remember where my line type load command is. I have to go back and read my read my thing. Load line type. Anybody remember which one that was? I have to go back and see the darn thing. There it is, line type. Huh. There we go. So line type, and then you can load new ones. Now, in the thing, I said we use the one like center 2, not the X2, center 2. And that's just to meet United States standards. You can see all these ISO standards also. But those are like for millimeters. We usually use these border 2, center 2, dashed 2. And that's just to show up right on a drawing. Look, there's fence line. That is so cool. Gas lines. So I get a chance to do all of those. So I can set things up however I want. So let's just say I needed a gas line in this drawing because in my properties I was going to draw gas, and I'd say, oh, I want that one to be a gas line. Check this out. It's so cool. And I'll make the gas line red. And I know that on my site, the gas line, draw a gas line, starts out here somewhere and comes over to the house and over here and into the building. Now, it doesn't look very good here because this is at such a big scale. When I come over here, all of a sudden it looks pretty good. So don't worry about it. We'll talk about that if you get into this. We'll talk about scales and viewport scales and all that kind of stuff. But if I wanted to show my gas, I would again come over to here and say, okay, I don't want furniture, lighting, or plumbing. I just want to see where my gas comes into the house or the building. So you can do your line types also. These properties are amazing what you can do. And we're just doing part of it. You can even set them to show but not print. So as an example, I'm going to take my viewport, which is framing. If I take this frame of my viewport and say that's a depth point, I see it on my drawing. So I know what's going to show, but then when I do a plot preview, say to a PDF, that line does not show up on my plot. So that's kind of a cool thing. That's kind of nifty. So layers, all you really need to do, and I'm throwing a bunch of, oh, aren't those cool? All you really need to do is be able to come over here, use this little new layer button, and create layers. And the other thing you need to be able to do is go over to the layers button and pick which layer you're drawing on, or which layer you want something to be on. So as an example, if I wanted my wall to be on a different layer, I can change it here. My wall now, amazingly, is accidentally on plumbing, so I'll go put it back onto the wall layer. Okay, so that's how layers operate. That's how they work. That's what they're for. And your job in the template really is just to open a drawing and set up all these layers and take a screenshot of it. And then next week I'm going to show, or maybe even this week, I'm going to show you how to work with that. Okay. Now there's turn on and turn off and freeze and thaw in viewport. And I did a video on that, and you can watch it, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But now I want to show you how to do this one right here. I did a little demo for you here, but I'm going to do it again. So here I've got a drawing in the model, and I don't even care. I'll draw something. I'll put it on plumbing, put it on 0. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to draw something 16 long. And I'm going to use something called the distance command, DIST. And I'm going to pick one end and then the other. And you can see, I don't know what I made that. Architectural inches. Okay. I'm going to type DIST. I'm going to go from here to here. And you'll see down here that it says 1 feet 4 inches. And that's what you're going to take a snip of to put in there. I just want to see that line, and I want to see that it's 1 feet 4 inch. And then I want you to change your units to something else, like decimal with 2 places. I don't remember what it says. And type DIST. And take a snip of that and put it in there. Then you've got the one thing that's a little bit hard. I want to make this in decimal feet now. So now I'm going to make a copy of it. And I'm going to do something called scale. I'm going to scale it from this end, 0.083333. That's about as close as to 1 to 12 as you can get. Decimal feet, C-I-S-T, 1.333. And I just want snips of these numbers, just pretty much just like what it shows right here. Just get those snips in there and label them so that we can see what it is. But take a snip of your drawing as you do it. Like if you took a snip of your units and that drawing and put it here. So that's what I'm looking for there. Here I'm just looking at a snip from your layers. Just take a snip of your layers property box. Now let's talk about this one briefly, and then I'll let you guys go. I'll go to that template. And let me get out of this, sorry. There we go. And you can see that I'd like to have this, and one of them I want left, 0.2 standard with no rotation. So if I click on it, here I see standard, left, 0.2, no rotation. That one's okay. My next one, I want to be left, 0.12, standard, no rotation. And the next one, I want to be left, 0.2, standard with a 15-degree rotation. So left, 0.2, standard, rotation 15. So I'm just giving you the chance to show that you have an opportunity to change these. Now this one wants to change it to city blueprint style. I don't have city blueprint in here. So now I have to make a text style called city blueprint. Annotate. New. City blueprint. City blueprint. Wow. That's cool. So now if I come in here and look at the next one, city blueprint, left, standard, 0 rotation. And, now it's going to be, that one should have been middle center. Sorry, I was off. Middle center. That's justify, MC, middle, center. There we go. So you see how things adjust. Middle center. So this one's 0.12. City blueprint. Middle center. And an angle of -15. There we go. So I'm just giving you ways that you get to work with this. And this one is right, 0.2, standard, and 0. And that's a great way to be able to adjust all these. And then I show you, I've given you a way to make um, text styles. You can practice that. We will use those significantly next week when we're drawing. And so you would then just take a snip of that and put it in your thing. And you can take snips of maybe the property box to show how they work and things like that. But that pretty much does it. So these are built-in CAD fonts. So Stephen asks, are these Windows TrueType fonts from the system, or are they built-in CAD fonts? They are built-in CAD fonts, but you can create your own fonts. There's, if you look in the Express tools, I think it's in here. Import dimension styles. Hold on a sec. There's I know that you can create your own fonts out of existing ones. But I'll tell you, if you just look it up, you can import these fonts super easily. There's thousands of them that you can just download and type them in. Um, and if you that's a good question. We look here. There's a pretty good chunk of them. But you're going to find for most drawing standards, you're going to find like City Blueprint is really common for architectural and interior design and landscape. Aerial or Simplex or Duplex are really common for mechanical. Calibri is pretty common. Cambria is pretty common. And all these other ones, I mean, they're pretty cool. But you can just pull one in if you don't have it. But you do have to bring it in because it is in their format. That was a good question. Thank you on that one. Okay, let's see how I did. Top 5, there we are. And I just barely touched on text styles, so we'll get to that later. There we go. So in the highlights class today, I'm just going to really kind of show examples and talk about how you would use them and see these in different places. I think when Stephen first came on, I mentioned that, shoot, we spent a week doing setup, and then we got to draw a little bit, and now we're doing setup again. Actually, you know what I'll do is in the highlights class, I'll work on doing these plates so that you can see how it sort of all ties together. So I'll do plate 1 and 2 during our highlights class today. Okay? So cool. Any other questions before I stop the recording? Okay, well, there we go. I'm stopping the recording.